world where insanity reigns supreme and safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, it's comforting to know an ancient, fat, long-haired, bearded reprobate has your mind in mind. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, and despite every attempt by the SHR Media Network to revoke his shameless contract, we return to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody? Julie, hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
Oh, you magnificent bastard, I read your book.
I drink your milkshake.
How dare you?
I call that bold talk for a one-eyed fat man.
Fill your hand, you son of a bitch.
Of course you realize this means war.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
It is Thursday. For me, a very significant day, a very significant Thursday. This is Back to the Studio Part D. Because Tuesday didn't go so well. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I'm broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, always spelled with a K, and I'm no longer near downtown Sacramento. I'm in, I guess you could call it South Sacramento, near Elk Grove. So I'm about 7 miles now, I would guess, south of the locus of evil on the entire left coast, the Bill Mill. There's going to be a lot of audio cuts tonight. What I'd like you to tell me, I thought tonight that it would be a special audio-only night. But I decided, okay, wait. I tried to make things work. All my tests between Tuesday and today were terrible. And the video was terrible on Tuesday night. So this is an experiment. I'm pretty sure that Spreaker is going to work well. Spreaker is audio only. So instead of starting both video just for the halibut, I decided, okay, let's start Facebook. Let's not start YouTube. And just see where we go on Facebook. So anybody who happens to be here right now, depending on what you're watching or listening, can you tell me, please, if you're watching on Facebook, is it working? Because I've got a bunch of screens in front of me, but the way things work and the way Echo works, etc., I can't be watching any Facebook that goes through any input whatsoever on this board. That's just the way it works. Spreaker, which is audio only, should be working really well. So, if between now and whenever you find that Spreaker is not working, that's the audio only, or if you find that the video on Facebook is not working, please in chat let me know. So, folks, if you want to watch, yes, I am live on video for the time being. It still says I'm dropping frames, so I may have to stop the video. It was doing this yesterday, and it was doing it terribly on Tuesday night, so I've still got some big video stuff to figure out. And please, in chat, if it's unwatchable, just tell me and I'll stop it, because I'm already on Spreaker. And so it might be just an audio show tonight. In any event, just let me know which way it's going. This is one in a number of occasional shows. I had the studio completely moved. It's no longer at the original SHR Media Studios in downtown Sacramento. It's about 7 miles away south. Welcome to one viewer in chat. Good to see you here. Along with Mike and Simone Says, and of course, Zep, one each. The studio has been moved. I tried to make things work on this past Tuesday night. Not really working with me that much, so I had to stop the show. Since then, I know I've taken care of Spreaker because I made numerous tests. Not sure how the Facebook thing is working. Now, that can be a good thing and that can be a bad thing. I like running video if I can. Spreaker, however, has its own big benefit, because what will get you a strike for content on Facebook or YouTube won't get you a thing on Spreaker. So I'm going to end up being very honest tonight. I have a lot of great audio cuts and the things that you've come to enjoy in the Saloon, Happy Stories, the Racist-Sexist industrial complex. All those things are here full well for everybody to enjoy. Now, I happen to be in California. Always spell it with a K. Today, and welcome, Jan. Jan McKillop is in chat. Welcome. Good to see you. California is really hot today. Got up to about 111. No problem. Just insert head into your average Mark I Model 1 stove, because it's a dry heat, so you don't really notice it. But yeah, it's just really, really hot. As this is my first show in the new studio, also, as you can see, I've got a little bit of a different background. You can't, if you look closely, if you're watching on video and the video is working. Okay, Jan said moved over from Facebook. Facebook was glitching. Okay. All right. Know when to say when. So I tell you what, let's just stop Facebook. Facebook is done. All right, there we go. Now, I do have a new background, and I hope the people that saw it for as little as you did, I've still got some work to do through XSplit, which is the video host. I'll get to it eventually, because now it's on me and my producer. Shh, my producer is my wife. Don't tell anybody. Jan McKillop said the rock wall is pretty good. I'm glad to see that you like the background. Now that we're on audio only, I'm sorry, the rock wall is now gone. Anyway, if you have anything to say, and this is one of those shows that is so jammed. First I thought, okay, whenever I'm done with content, I'll be done. I've got so much content tonight. Tons of it is going to be audio. There are great happy stories in this. As a matter of fact, why don't we just jump into it right now with my various departments. First to include
the bloviating Zeppelins HeyJackass.com Chicago Death Toll Update, courtesy of Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot.
And this is from HeyJackass.com. HeyJackass.com. Illustrating Chicago values. from Lori Lightfoot, the lovely mayor. We've got a few things to say about her after this. In the illustrious downtown beautiful Mogadishu, Chicago. Anyway, it goes like this. In HeyJackass.com, the death toll, June to date, shot and killed 44, shot and wounded 217. Total shot 261, total homicides 44. The week in progress, June 13th to June 19th. Shot and killed 14, shot and wounded 63, total shot 77, total homicides 14. Year to date, this is where the numbers get big. This is what everybody expects. Shot and killed 295, shot and wounded 1,412. Hey, Chicago, you should be so proud. Total shot 1,707 people, total homicides 312. And the 30-day stupidity trend is like this. A person is wounded every 2 minutes and 22 seconds in the great city of Chicago. And a person is murdered every 12 minutes and 56 seconds in the great city of Chicago. Mike in chat says, when will we get to see Clyde again? Well, the one good thing about that, if you are familiar with the Saloon, when I say it's the Berserk Bobcat Saloon, there is actually a Bobcat. And historically, the Bobcat has been perched above my board and seat and the desk in the old studio. And this Bobcat's name is Clyde. You didn't really see him very much. But in this new studio, Clyde is right behind me. And the next time you happen to look and you see the on the air sign, it's blue. And blue in the new studio, by the way. Blue's on the left. Red is on the right. That should come as no shock to you. But directly above and behind the on-air studio is Clyde, the Bobcat. And you can see him when the video is working. So Clyde is here. Clyde is in the studio, and I'm so proud. Here's a story about Mayor Lightfoot in Chicago. Mayor Lightfoot sent an email that drew comparisons to a scene in The Shining because it was born out of frustration. On Monday, this Monday, Mayor Lori Lightfoot of Chicago said in a much-circulated email, and boy, it went viral, in which she berated an aide that was born out of frustration, and she's now in a better place with her team. So in late January, she sent her then scheduler an email complaining that Lori Lightfoot, Mayor Lightfoot, doesn't get enough of what she calls office time. Now, that's typically a less structured part of the day when the mayor can think or write or make long-term plans. And so what happened is she sent her assistant an email, and she wrote 16 times in a row in this email, I need office time every day. I need office time every day. I need office time every day. Then she sent her another email which said 10 times, oh, not just once a week or some days every day. Not just once a week or some days every day. Not just once a week or some days every day. That is a priority now in the Lightfoot area. That's what she considers to be a priority, not the death toll. Now, though, recently, this came out from Chicago CBS Local. She admits, whereas before, under Trump, she didn't want any federal assistance whatsoever, none, zip zero the null set. Now she's amenable to receiving some federal aid because now it's a different president. It's not OMB, Orange Man Bad. It's the dementia boy. Or as Sean Hannity says, basically Admiral Sippy Cup, President Sippy Cup. And now she wants federal aid. She says the federal government needs to fight the illegal gun flow amid the horrible plague of violence. Well, she's had literally years to call it a horrible plague of violence, but she knows full well that had she called it a terrible plague of violence during the Trump administration, that would have yielded him some fodder, and we can't have that. But if the federal government steps in as she wishes, I'm not so sure she'll like that, because this happened before, and I was a witness to it. You have probably never heard of this town. There's a little teeny city in California, always spelled with a K. There's Palo Alto in the Bay Area. NSB, not so bad. Then there's East Palo Alto. Well, in the 90s, in the 80s, I should say, East Palo Alto was gang-banging central. It was shit hot. People and bodies, let the body hit the floor. The bodies were hitting the floor in the streets every damn night. And so at the time when you could actually, attempt to curb crime and you gave police officers the ability to do that, they decided that they were going to work hand in hand with the federal government. That project, you can go to your favorite search engine and look up Project Trigger Lock. What that meant was that if you had a good series of gun crimes, or if you found a bad guy gangbanger piece of crap on the street in possession of a gun, you took the guns federally. And here's why. In California at the time, and certainly now, you'd get more time behind a federal beef with a gun, especially if there were priors, than you would have under the California, always spelled with a K, penal code. So, working with the feds under trigger lock, lots of bad guys had their asses yanked off the street. Imagine that. And they just didn't go to jail. They went to prison. Well, they didn't go to regular prison, intermediate prison, or they didn't go to the introductory gladiator school. They went to federal prison. Don't pass go, don't collect $200. In California, that happens to be Terminal Island or Folsom. God, I wish Alcatraz was still open. If you haven't toured Alcatraz, that's about the only thing worth seeing in San Francisco anymore. It's still amusing to tour. Or you can get sent to San Quentin. If you're really an asshole, then you can get sent up to Pelican Bay. But you have to work to get there. In any event, lots of arrests were made, and the cities and the state worked hand in hand with the feds. But what it means is this. And I forgot the other attraction at this time was this. Rules of evidence in the federal venue are much more loose than they are in the state. So you can get bits of evidence introduced in a federal crime much more readily than you can under state of California rules. So that's why, and that's how, Palo Alto and the Bay Area happened to stem an assload of gun crime in the 80s because they arrested people and worked with the feds. Now, it's June 2021, and making arrests won't play well with Lori Lightfoot. So she says she wants the feds in, but did she really? Sergeant Booker in chat, by the way, says Operation Trigger Lock was succeeded by Operation Exile. He said he had a gun case that was turned over to the feds, and the guy got 10 years federal prison. Nice. So he got a search appeal, which was won in the Ninth Circuit, even back then. The Ninth Circuit is not exactly quite as loony as it used to be, but Mayor Lori Lightfoot, be careful what the hell you're asking for. Because if you go to the feds, you might get actual arrests. Here's the other thing that nobody will tell you about. The state of Illinois, if you know anything about your history or anything about geography, actually contains Chicago. Chicago's on a lake. Illinois has some of the toughest gun crime laws in the nation. Well, why are there still criminals? Because they don't prosecute. And they don't do add-ons. Like stands for repeat offender, possession of a gun in the commission of a felony, blah, 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 blah. Oh, Sergeant Booker in chat says the guy that he arrested shot himself in the foot with a .44 Magnum. Having seen one and potentially used one in the past, I can tell you, that's gotta hurt. That's good, clean fun. I like that. I told you these were happy stories, didn't I? I got an ass load more. I think I told you this on Tuesday, but I don't know if you heard this. Fox News tops MSNBC and CNN for the 17th straight week as liberal networks struggle to attract younger viewers. So, as I wrote, essentially, CNN's numbers, and especially those for Brian Stelter, I'll get to him in just a moment. I got a lovely little audio cut for you about that. I think it's on Dish right now. The 24-hour Tibetan bell ringing channel is getting higher ARB ratings than CNN. And the newly introduced on DirecTV, the 24-hour Bolivian gas station sushi making channel is also getting better ratings than CNN and Stelter combined. Oh, and Sergeant Booker in chat says, chicken wing size bone fragments on the floor. Bad. No bueno. No bueno, senor. So CNN is getting resoundingly trounced, and as a matter of fact, Brian Stelter is. Now, this is something worth listening to because it's funny as hell, and it is a happy story.
Yes, I'd like to ask Brian.
Oh, by the way, this is where C-SPAN callers get to telephone CNN's Brian Stelter and ask him questions. Well, you guys can call in and ask me a question. The line, if you want to call, is 575-208-4481. I can't put it in the video because I stopped the video. I'll put it in the chat room in just a second. So if you guys want to call, 575-208-4481. Well, C-SPAN allowed people to call Brian Stelter. It's great. This is what you got.
To, on national television, admit he and his network are a bunch of liars about Donald Trump.
Stop right there. Does anyone think that sounds a little bit like the Alaskan? I meant to ask him if he was here tonight, and I'm playing it early. I was hoping he was going to be here. I don't know. To me, that almost sounds a little bit like the Alaskan calling in on C-SPAN to talk to Brian Stelter.
This is Kevin in Princeton, Indiana. Good morning.
Oh, Kevin,
yeah,
right.
Mr. Stelter is the biggest minister of misinformation I have ever heard, and I'm a news junkie. He made the statement just a few minutes ago that he is all the stories are always evolving. Yeah, his stories absolutely evolve.
Brian Stelter.
Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate it.
Savannah, Georgia. Rick, good.
Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate it. In the meantime, in his little bald head, he's thinking, "You son of a bitch! If I knew where you were."
Morning, you're next.
Yes, I was just wondering if you still feel like Michael Avenatti is the greatest thing in the world and should run for president of the United States.
Yeah, Michael Avenatti's doing prison time right now. No problem.
And my suggestion is whatever CNN says, do the opposite and you'll be fine.
Aurora, Indiana. This is Robert. Good morning. You're on with Brian Stelter.
You know, CNN is just something it's a joke.
He's smiling. He's smiling. I guess somebody on CNN told him, sit there and take it, mister. You're going to sit there and take it.
It's a joke. This guy tells more lies, and Fox gives more news than CNN does in their
What lie? What lie did I tell?
2 years. It's nothing but lies.
Well, there it is. When you don't screen the calls, regular Americans call in. Kelly, what's your?
Oh, regular Americans call in. Oh, sorry about that. But in any event, Brian Stelter lost an assload of his audience. Well, it wasn't limited just to Brian Stelter. This is another happy story. This is from Gateway Pundit. Now, when I can, You've heard Carrie Baxter Donovan on the show before. I called her my ECPG, my East Coast political goddess, and she's been on the show many, many times. And she's in North Carolina, and now she's been writing for a whole bunch of people, and she's writing for Gateway Pundit now. This isn't her story, but I'm getting many more stories these days from Gateway Pundit. As I indicated, the thing about Spreaker is I can say any damn thing I want and I'm not going to get censored. I don't think that I can recall people have been censored on Spreaker. I could be wrong, but I have not received any flaming arrows from Spreaker, nor do I know anybody who has, including Jeremy Hansen. And that was one of the reasons, by the way, if you listen to Jeremy Hansen, he never went to video, and it took him a long time. He's on video now, but he never really went to video because you can get away with saying things that are the truth on Spreaker, whereas opposed Facebook and YouTube. No, not so much. This is from Gateway Pundit, MSNBC's Nicole Wallace. This is grand. You can't write this shit. MSNBC's Nicole Wallace lost 80% of her audience since Trump left office. Gateway Pundit writes, fake news networks like CNN and MSNBC are hemorrhaging viewers, and we are here for it. MSNBC's Nicole Wallace lost 80% of her audience since Biden was installed in January of this year. Wallace's 4 p.m. show. So 4 p.m., okay, East Coast, that's prime time. That's prime time. And she's banging it. Her show at 4 p.m., Deadline White House, has pretty much collapsed, according to analysis by Nielsen Media Research. This is what the Washington Free Beacon reported. Few cable hosts have suffered more from President Donald Trump leaving office than MSNBC's Nicole Wallace. That's a good thing. Here's another crazy thing. I've told you this before, but now it's official. This is, again, why it's another happy story. You may or may not know, Colorado, a couple of years ago, decided to sell dope. They were going to make money on dope, just like all the other states that decided that they were going to go with a lottery because we were going to, like California, always spelled it with a K, decided that if we get a lottery, all the money that we're going to be able to make for schools will be incredibly awesome. So Colorado said, well, why don't we legalize dope? And the Doritos manufacturers were happy as hell in Colorado. Until basically they discovered that the equivalent of DUIs went up and people were doing dope all over the place. Well, California decided a couple of years ago, well, why can't we do what Colorado did? So they decided they were going to legalize dope also. What they didn't tell growers was that some of your licenses would cost $75,000. And you would have to be licensed, everything from weights and measures to how you grew. Plants all had to be tagged. Oh, there were a lot of stipulations that California, always spell it with a K, didn't tell dope growers. Now, here's a story from KTLA in 5, LA's very own, where the headline says, California legislature. This is, by the way, that's why I'm leaving California. California legislature, California taxpayers, you're paying for this. California legislature approves $100 million plan to save the struggling legal marijuana industry. So would it shock you folks if I were to tell you, logically speaking, that people that didn't want to pay $75,000 for a license, that's just one license in a series of a never-ending bunch of licenses and strictures and regulations that you must comply with, all the people that decided to go dope, a lot of the growers decided, today, fuck it, and went back to being illegal. Now, the people that are actually profiting a bit on this are the major corporate growers. Would you be surprised to know anything about that? Those are the other people, the only people that appear to be succeeding in California's, always spelled with a K, dope growing. The California legislature on this Monday, approved a $100 million taxpayer dollar funded plan to bolster California's legal marijuana industry, which continues to struggle to compete with the large illicit pot market nearly 5 years after voters approved sales for recreational use. Shocked you. Wait a minute. Where's Yoda? Shocked you are. Not really. As I've said, California could not sell ice in hell. That is guaranteed. Then there was a little tay-da-tay. We'll get to coronavirus. Oh, maybe I'll play that in just a little bit. Oh, speaking of which, damn it, Jim, I'm late. I'm going to actually go to a break because I actually need a break myself. So we're going to go to a break. I'll be right back after this. I've got a great video to play about Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert. He prefers to pronounce it in a French fashion. Stephen Colbert and Jon Stewart. And then a former nurse who makes an amazing revelation. I'm BZ. If you happen to be on Facebook, you probably aren't, share it. If you happen to be on Spreaker, share and share alike. Share like crazy. I'll be right back after this. If you would, please.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right. We're back. So please join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
Unleashed Jeremy Hansen, the most explosive pro-American podcast on the planet. Pro-MAGA, pro-Trump, pro-conservative. Come join the resistance. Fight for what really matters in America. 5 p.m. Central on UJHLive.com, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Pandora, or MAGAbook.com. Come join the resistance and fight for America. Unleashed Jeremy Hansen.
Do you value yourself, your family, your friends? Want to know more about how to survive, thrive, and stay alive in these dynamic times? Listen to Around the Campfire with Kate, Thursday nights and Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, only on PSN TV. That's Around the Campfire with Kate. News that nobody in the MSM wants to report. Remember, train hard, train smart to survive, thrive, and stay alive.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back 1.5 hour down. Welcome back to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. You can follow me on Twitter at BZEP, at BZEP. If you would, if you happen to be on Twitter, share the show tonight. If you're listening on Spreaker right now, please hit share. If you're listening to the show later in podcast, and I will post the show on Spreaker in Facebook later on, hit share, share the show all over. By the way, you can hear me on Spotify, on iHeart, on Apple Podcasts, and on Podcast Addict. Well, we were talking about California, and they can't grow dope, and then I told you that I'd tell you a little something that came off recently with Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert, the French guy who has his own show. And, oh, my God, Jon Stewart really screwed things up.
And 100 years later, 103 years later, wear a mask, wash your hands.
It was soul crushing to find that. I was really hoping that, like in 1918, they'd be like, drink a tincture of mercury and butterfly juice. Like, I was hoping it'd be like some bizarre thing, and I'm like, we've come a long way, baby. It's the exact same.
How do you feel about the science now, though?
So I will say this.
Here we go.
And I honestly mean this. I think we owe a great debt of gratitude to science. Science has, in many ways, helped ease the suffering of this pandemic, which was more than likely caused by science.
You should see the look on Colbert's face.
And that's kind of...
Hold on, what's that?
No. Now, listen.
It's coffee. I wouldn't do that to you. I wouldn't do that to you. What do you mean by that? Do you mean like perhaps there was a chance that this was created in a lab? There's an investigation.
A chance?
Well,
oh my
if there was evidence, I'd love to hear it.
There's a novel respiratory coronavirus overtaking Wuhan, China. What do we do? Oh, you know who we could ask? The Wuhan Novel Respiratory Coronavirus Lab. The disease is the same name as the lab.
True.
That's just a little too weird, don't you think? And then they ask the scientists, they're like, how did this... So wait a minute, you work at the Wuhan Respiratory Coronavirus Lab. How did this happen? And they're like, a pangolin kissed a turtle. And you're like, no, the name of your lab. If you look at the name, let me see your business card. Show me your business card. Oh, I work at the coronavirus lab in Wuhan. Oh, because there's a coronavirus loose in Wuhan. How did that happen? Maybe a bat flew into the cloaca of a turkey and then it sneezed into my chili and now we all have coronavirus. Like, come on.
Wait a second.
What about this? Listen to this.
Wait a second.
Oh, did he catch
John.
crap for that?
Oh, my God. There's been an outbreak of chocolatey goodness near Hershey, Pennsylvania. What do you think happened? Like, oh, I don't know. Maybe a steam shovel mated with a cocoa bean. Or it's the chocolate factory. Maybe that's it.
That could be.
Okay, so enough of Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert. Jon Stewart was raked over the coals for that, and his ranking in leftist stature has plummeted. Here's another great story, another happy story. House GOP re-election posts third straight record fundraising month. Republicans need a net gain of 5 seats to regain House majority in 2022 midterm elections. It's 2021. Midterms are next year. 435 seats up for bid. And if I'm not mistaken, in the Senate, there are 37 seats up for bid. Then here's another happy story. 'Cause the hits, I got another 7 or 10 more stories for you that are happy stories before I get to the serious, really depressing bullshit. This is from the Springfield News Leader. Missouri governor signs bill restricting future pandemic health orders, banning vaccine passports. Missouri leading the way, kind of like that. Jeremy Hansen's backyard. Yay, yay, Missouri. Jefferson City, local health departments in Missouri will have less freedom to issue restrictive public health orders and will be banned from requiring proof of vaccination under a bill signed into law. This isn't they're talking about it. This is, yeah, I signed that bill by Governor Mike Parson on Tuesday. So, yeah, yay, Missouri. Way to go. Then there's Joe Biden. Sippy Cup Joe, as Sean Hannity calls him. This is from Sky News. Now, if you're not familiar with Sky News, I find this almost shocking that Sky News is from Australia, because there's damn near no freedom of speech in Australia. And, for Christ's sake, there certainly isn't much in Canada. That's exactly what leftists want here in the United States of America. But this is Sky News talking about the obvious. You can't state anything about the emperor and his clothes. Nothing.
Cornwall, Joe Biden's first major summit as US president has meant also that he's had an audience with the Queen at Windsor Castle. The questions have been raised about his mental acuity after a series of embarrassing gaffes, including this bizarre response to a reporter at his press conference yesterday.
This is great.
When you're having these conversations with European allies who are very concerned about these sanctions, how do you justify that? And what are your plans?
120 days. Give me a break. Need time.
What?
Oh, he's been president for 145 days, not 120.
What the hell was that? But would it shock you if I said, but wait, there's more? This is from a guy from Red State. More evidence emerges that Joe Biden is not well. And again, emperor, clothes. Joe Biden's disastrous G7 performance has been well documented. From his getting played by Vladimir Putin, stop. When you negotiate on a global stage, unless you're a leftist, but actual adults conducting actual negotiations try to get something for themselves when they negotiate. Like Trump, he'd give you something if you gave something back. Biden got nothing. Putin pointed his finger at him and made fun of him. This was a disastrous performance. He had any number of train wrecks for press conferences. It's not over. And one day earlier this week, he was 2.5 hours late for a NATO press conference. No reason whatsoever while he was there. He calls on selected reporters from a list of prepared names, and then he gives some kind of a lame-ass
CBS.
Short speech.
Nancy Cordes, CBS.
Yeah, and he's reading that from a list. So, only answer the questions that are prepared. So, he starts calling on these reporters, and his brain hits a freeze. It locks up. I had a Yamaha 125 seize on me one time. Watching this was like watching and experiencing my Yamaha 125 freeze. There are only 3 options here that could have happened on this. Biden is somehow hooked into some kind of an earpiece that for whatever reason we can't see because we can only see from the front. He's trying to remember what he was rehearsing earlier because his team knew this prearranged question was coming, or the random silence occurred just because there was brain damage gridlock. That's the only thing I can think of. It was the lights are on, not too many people are home, there was some gridlock going on. Let's see if I can get this to play. This is some fun 24 seconds. I'm getting the blue circle of death. Here we go.
I mean, he has made clear that the answer is, I believe he has in the past essentially acknowledged that he was, there are certain things that he would do or did do. But
What? So what happens is Biden gets played by Putin. And Putin is essentially, premier for life because he gets to decree it so. And he sits back and he's amused by how rapidly we change presidents like we change our underwear. We change administrations like we change underwear. And anytime he gets to meet a new president, he gets to smile and poke his finger and make fun of America. Whoever thought that it was a really good idea to send Joe Biden to the G7 might regret it a little bit now. That was kind of like whoever said they thought it was a good idea to send Kamala Harris to Guatemala and Mexico and stay the hell away from that Mexican border. It was a complete mess for Biden. So if you remember Jill Biden sitting on Air Force One, prepping for the G7. She's prepping for the G7. She gets to England. They get to England. She scolds Joe to pay attention. So Biden on Sunday gets confused, and Boris Johnson tells Biden to shush twice, and the other leaders are laughing. You didn't see that or hear of that, though, did you? And that was purposeful. That was very purposeful. Here's another happy story. A judge halts Biden's unconstitutional $4 billion program to pay up to 120% of Black, Hispanic, Asian, or Native American farmers' debts after 12 white farmers decided to sue. Have you ever heard of the federal law? Anybody? This Wisconsin judge, William Greisbach, issued a TRO on last Thursday, blocking the loan forgiveness program. He said it was a race-based criteria, which is a violation of civil rights. Oh, you know that act the federal government passed, Biden's $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan, set aside $4 billion to the USDA for loan forgiveness for socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers of color. And the judge came in and said, you know what? That's not lawful. Then there's this that occurred. This is judge orders new election after 78% of mail-in ballots found invalid and a notary was arrested. And you didn't hear about this story either. A Mississippi judge ordered a new runoff election for a local election in Aberdeen after more than 3/4 of absentee ballots cast in the June Democratic runoff election were found to be invalid, while a notary involved in the election was arrested. What voter fraud? They scream. Here's something else that's very interesting. This is emerging. This is from Fox, and with some exceptions on the Republican side and some exceptions on the Fox side. Do not expect that Fox is going to be telling you all the news you need to know and that they are fair and balanced. If you remember, they were the first ones to call the presidential election in November of 2020. They called it for Biden, one of the very first. So a Fox 26 reporter, this went to Project Veritas. A Fox 26 reporter releases a tape of corruption censorship, and Fox Corporation boss told this reporter to cease and desist posting on hydroxychloroquine and poor African Americans don't care about Bitcoin. So Fox 26 reporter Ivory Hecker was suspended after announcing live on air that she had decided to come to Project Veritas. for what she described as pure corruption in the Houston affiliate. She said the station's actions are an affront to real journalism. Imagine that. And claimed leadership prioritizes corporate interests over the viewer. Hecker obtained recordings of her superiors telling her to prioritize the opinion of the station's general manager and the company's CEO above that of the audience. She said, what's happening within Fox Corp is an operation of prioritizing corporate interests above the viewer's interest and therefore operating in a deceptive way. Wait a minute. If I had a producer, let's see, this is what you would have heard. Operating in a wrong manner. But I don't have a producer, and that's not what you heard. She also obtained audio of Fox 26's VP and news director Susan Scheller telling her to, the reporter, Hecker, to cease and desist posting about hydroxychloroquine on social media. Hold that thought. So that's coming. There will be more on that. And will Fox cover it? I am suspecting no, they won't, because they've been named. Now, but wait, there's more. Let's go back out to California. Always spell it with a K. And what I'm going to tell you about here has already occurred in Sacramento, where I am right now. Shoplifting in San Francisco is so completely out of control that retailers are closing their stores. Walgreens, I don't know what state you're in, but Walgreens and CVS are two big pharmacy drugstores that are chains in the state of California. Always spell it with a K. Walgreens in San Francisco, you may not know, is a city and county in itself. So the city limits are also the county limits. Walgreens has closed 17 of its stores in San Francisco due to theft. And CVS has called the city one of the epicenters of organized retail crime. Well, wait a minute. Why would that be? Would that be a problem? Well, local DAs and leftist DAs have decided they're not going to prosecute that kind of stuff anymore. And the state of California has kicked up the amount of money that shoplifting that delineates a felony. Walgreens said petty theft in the city has gotten so completely out of control that it's had to close 17 of its stores. Stop. Walgreens had a store in South Sacramento, closer towards I-5, that closed its doors also because of high amounts of theft. So this is not limited to San Francisco. It's endemic and rife all around the state of California. Always spell it with a K. And may be happening in more other leftist cities. This is the only article that I can find that's come out of San Francisco. But now it pays, as you well know, it pays to be a criminal in the state of California, in the city of San Francisco. You've seen the video recently where a guy bicycles in, steals a whole bunch of crap off the shelves. There is a security guard watching, throws it in a big bag, gets back on the bicycle and pedals out through the doors. Nobody stops him. The security guard makes some kind of a half-assed, half-handed attempt to grab the bag. The bag was still grasped by the thief on the way out. It's all over. Thank you, leftists. Thank you, Democrats. Thank you for voting that way. And here's another happy story. The New York Times. How many times do you know people that have seen a story from the Babylon Bee and have said, "That's a lie, man. You're listening to fake news." Jack Alexander, good to see you in chat. Babylon Bee, man, that's fake news. You shouldn't be reading that. Babylon Bee is a humor site, asswipe. The New York Times thought that the New York Times thought that the Babylon Bee was publishing real work. Number one, the New York Times has no humor. Number two, the New York Times became furious in its little witch hunt against the Babylon Bee. Hello? Adults? That's called a satirical site. It took them a week, more than a week to say, oh, on our social media, people have said, well, that was kind of a dumb move. It's a satirical site. And they finally grokked that concept. Yeah, that's how stupid leftists and media are. Remember when Kamala Harris went down to Guatemala and she was met with Trump won signs? And that was great. Oh, here's another happy story. How much time do I have? I got 5 more minutes. God, almost an hour up, and I'm not even done with happy stories. I got to play some great videos. I still have some great videos and great audio for you to hear. Were you guys aware that California's assault weapons ban was overturned recently? That falls into the yippee-ki-yay category. That was June 8th, if I'm not mistaken. So the leftists call it a polarizing decision. But a federal judge struck down California's 32-year-old ban on assault weapons. You know, if it's black and has funny shit sticking out that we don't understand what that is, but it sure looks bad, so it must be an assault weapon, ruled that it violated Americans' constitutional right to own guns for self-protection. In the 94-page decision, Judge Roger Benitez compared an AR-15 to a Swiss Army knife and falsely claimed, this is how they're writing, they're saying the judge, a federal judge, falsely claimed that more Californians had died from COVID-19 vaccine than from mass shootings. Well, apparently that judge also read the stats indicating that more people were killed by hands, feet, and knives than by every assault weapon in the United States of America. So that's a happy story. Here's another thing. This is why Jack in chat says, BZ, everyone when Cammie went down, wink, wink. Make no mistake, and the reason I'm here is to tell you that just when you think everything is rotten, mean, evil, and nasty, I'm here to tell you it's not necessarily so, which is why I like to begin my shows with happy stories. An hour of happy stories, one after the other. Bada boom, bada bing, bada boom. Here's another one. Democrats were going to stop the filibuster, weren't they? Because if they can stop the filibuster, they can control anything and everything at will. So now there are 2 Democrats, Joe Manchin and Kirsten Gillibrand. Now they have been quantified as racists because they won't vote to eliminate the filibuster. And 2 votes, that stops it right there. I suspect there are going to be more votes of Democrats who they ain't going to go that far. But you know, that funny filibuster, the thing that Democrats used 300 times, I'm sorry, my mistake, 327 times in 2020 compared to only once by the GOP. Lies, damn lies, and damned dirty lies. Here's another, this I'm not sure exactly what to make of this. This is the first story that I've seen of this, and I'm waiting to see if we see more, if this becomes a trend, but I'm going to mention it to you because this may have affected you most recently. Sergeant Booker said, Jack, I just spewed single malt all over my iPad. That was some funny shit right there, okay? And Jack Alexander also says in chat that judge in California in his decision worded it so that it will be hard to win an appeal. This story just came out. It's a happy story, but I'm going to wait and see if it becomes a trend. Then I'll know that I'll feel confident that this is turning around. Anybody that has purchased or attempted to purchase any lumber recently knows that it's out of control. Today, a story came out saying cost of lumber tumbles after record high prices. So the only thing I saw was this from WJW. The lumber bubble has started to pop after skyrocketing to record highs in May. Futures for July delivery dropped more than 40%. July futures were trading Tuesday this week at $967 compared to a peak of $1,670 in May. Sherwood Lumber's Kyle Little said prices had reached unsustainable levels. And the prices increased as restaurants created new outdoor spaces, homeowners completed new projects, leading to a shortage and a price hike. And I also submit to you that lumber went out of control because what was used to staunch riots, lumber was placed over glass in every major leftist urban rat cage all around the United States of America. I'll be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
It is he that is me, bringing perspective from across the sea. Join me, Jack Alexander, 4 days a week for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the news and issues affecting life and liberty here in the USA. I'll show you what the mainstream media refuses to. Politics, border security, defense, healthcare, travel, nothing is off limits. Catch the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast each Monday to Thursday on Facebook, YouTube, and everywhere good podcasts can be found. Also, check out the website, www.jackalexanderexperiment.com.
Come listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific, for the best in late-night conservatarian wireless talk radio at shrmedia.com. Raised as a free-range child with dirt and freedom, BZ is broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room at shrmedia.com. Now, with 18% more umbrage and 20% more bulbosity than previous shows, and with delicious Liberty additives. Remember, BZ realizes that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
After 6 years covering terror and corruption, the Unpleasant Blind Guy is making a change. I'm Dave Milner. Join me on Spreaker and YouTube through SHR Media and on the Western Free Radio Network as I team up with Jeff Mitchell, host of the English Defense League radio show on blogtalkradio.com. Check show pages for air times. It's the Unpleasant Blind Guy.
On EDL Radio.
There's
no surrender, ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And it's 9:03 on the left coast where I am. I'm in California, always spelled with a K, but now I am 7 miles south of the locus of evil on the entire left coast. The Bill Mill, the California capital at 10th and L Street. Definitely the locus of evil. And again, I'm saying, folks, you can follow me on Twitter at BZEP. If you're listening on Spreaker, hit share, and share alike if you would. A story recently came out. I want to go over this story. And then I want to play a bit of audio that I came across. I think it's been out for a while, but nobody will play it. And the reason that I'm on Spreaker tonight is, number one, I couldn't get the damn video to work very well. I started on Facebook tonight, and then it tanked. So Jack Alexander in chat says, don't get me started on that, BZ. You know what? I'm going to get you started on that. Oh, hell yeah. I want to do some crazy stuff Here in the States, I want to play a bit of audio that would have completely gotten me knocked off YouTube and Facebook had I played it, so that's why I'm going to play it here tonight. You know what? Since Jack was talking about COVID stuff, let me just play this audio. It's a video bit. It's audio. It has to do with Wuhan 19. Listen to what this young lady has to say. And then you make a determination as to whether you think she's full of crap or whether you think she has some veracity to her. I believe she does. And then at the end of this, let's discuss what she's saying, what she's intimating, and what she's outright saying, because I don't think you're going to hear this anyplace else. This has been out now for, 2-3 weeks. This is the first time I've found it. I heard of it before, but I haven't located it. Now that I have, and I don't have to worry about YouTube and Facebook knocking me out for this, let's listen to what this young lady has to say about the coronavirus and perhaps about vaccines.
So about 8 years ago, I lost my baby during pregnancy, which is the reason that I actually left the healthcare field, because I was working with pregnant women, primarily, reproduction and endocrinology, and I just found it was a little bit too difficult for me to provide quality of care given my recent loss. So,
understood.
I went back into full-time working in the gas and oil and recruitment sector. And to this day, I am running a global gas and oil recruitment firm. And the reason that this is important is because of what I am seeing as an executive in this industry happening right now as a result of the COVID vaccines. And it's something called succession planning. And if you don't know what that is, look it up. But basically what it is companies need to plan for what's going to happen as their staff move on. Rather, they move up the line, they retire, so on and so forth. And succession planning is something that I help companies with professionally by offering them recruitment services. So they'll come to me and say, hey, we're going to need 100 guys to, staff this rig, so on and so forth. And so we'll provide them that service. Well, what's really interesting, what's happening right now, and it's actually mortifying, not just interesting, is that executives are having their HR staff and their managers, superintendents, foremen, so on and so forth, go through and look at the staff that have received the vaccines, and they're planning to have to replace them all within the next 3 years. What does that say to you? This is something that's, it's got some of these guys literally in tears as they're going through the company and literally checking off all of these individuals that have taken the vaccine, knowing that most likely in the next 3 years they're going to have to plan to replace that person. What does that say to you? And this is a really big thing in the industry that I'm in. And a lot of talk going on around this at the moment, because these massive companies, massive gas and oil companies, are looking to have to replace thousands of personnel. And I'm in that line of work that does the staffing for these large gas and oil companies. And they're pretty petrified as for what's going to happen to their staff, but also their businesses, because they project that they're going to lose, roughly half of their personnel.
Now, that's just for one industry. My guess would be, if that's affecting an industry and people are making succession planning behind this, what other industries are very, very, very quietly in the background making plans similar to this? Because a good industry, a good corporation, a good company, from large to small, makes succession planning. And that planning includes, what do we have today? What are we going to need tomorrow? What will we need a year down the line? What will we need 5 years down the line? They're asking now, what would they need 3 years down the line? And the factor, according to this young lady, is the vaccine. I will allow you to draw your own conclusions because you are all adults on this bus. But again, that's one of the reasons that you listen. Changing gears. Jack, if you want to call in, you're certainly welcome to. If you're disgusted about all of that stuff, don't worry about it. I dig it. I get it. Revolver came out with a new article that is earth-shaking. And by now, oh, does this come under this category?
Tales from the You Can't Write This Shit department. Graciously presented by BZ here in the Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
Because just when you think you've heard it all, or seen it all, or wondered about it all, well, it's here. Let's see if I can answer over here. Okay. My good friend Jack, are you there? Jack, are you there? Testing 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I know what the deal is. Okay. Let me turn this off. Okay. Jack, see if you can try it again. I'm going to hang up, and if you want to call back, give me a blast. Because there we go. All righty, Jack, are you there?
Have you got me?
Yes, now I do. Like I said, for some reason, the first time I call someone or someone calls me, the phones don't like it. When I do it a second time, the phones like it. So, folks, this is Jack Alexander. He and I have not spoken for quite some time. Jack lives in Victoria, in southern Australia. Victoria, of course, is a state in Australia. Victoria happens to have, and confirm this for me, Jack Alexander, if I'm wrong, the most stringent vaccine requirements and Wuhan 19 restrictions in all of Australia. Am I accurate or inaccurate?
Yes, the governor here. I'll use the term governor to make it easier. I swear, he and Andrew Cuomo have been taking turns of saying, "Here, hold my beer," when it comes to COVID responses.
Okay. Before I go any further, because Jack and I haven't spoken for a while, Jack has a show that he's still continuing. And Jack, would you tell people about your show and where it can be heard and found? And at what time and day?
It's called the Jack Alexander Experiment. It's running on average 3 days a week, although I try and do 4, but I have an outside work commitment that's interrupting one day of that. So it's averaging 3 days a week. I'm live streaming on Facebook and Twitch. The videos of it are being stored at rumble.com because telling the truth about COVID got me permanently banned from YouTube.
Okay. All right. And that's not something that just Jack worries about. That's something that another guy named Jeffrey Gonzalez, who talks about the paranormal and UFOs and also about other things, about Q, et cetera, he'll have a show on YouTube and get through with the show, and before YouTube has the ability to kill him, at the conclusion of the show, after about 5 minutes, he goes back into YouTube and excises, that is to say, he kills each show that you just watched on YouTube. Then, like Jack, he'll take that show before he does it and then post it on Rumble where you're not screwed with. So, Jack, you're not the only guy in that bus.
Oh, no. But unlike the likes of Stephen Crowder, I don't have a half-Asian cracker on retainer that can lodge multi-million-dollar lawsuits at the drop of the hat and get his channel reinstated, unfortunately. But you'll also find links to my stuff on Parler, Magabook, Gab, Pro America Only, MeWe, Instagram, at Twitter and LinkedIn. So you'll find me right across the board there.
Okay, now I haven't spoken to Jack Alexander in some time. Jack Alexander is, let me see. Here it's 9:15 Pacific time in the United States. What time is it in Australia right now, Jack?
It is 2:15 Friday afternoon here.
Okay. Oh, you know what that means? Jeez, this is what it means.
It's a magical step into the future. Tomorrow's news today with Australia's Jack Alexander. Here in the Berserk Bobcat Saloon.
Shame on me, Jack, for not playing that earlier. It is tomorrow's news today with Jack Alexander. So it's tomorrow where Jack is. It's today where I am. So tell me something amazing. Give me a winning lottery ticket. Okay, other than that, Jack Alexander, since we haven't spoken for so long, what is happening in Australia? Because what's the state of the art with with the repression of the citizenry in Victoria these days?
Freelance and independent journalists are currently in hiding, me being one of them, from state law enforcement. When the new round of lockdowns happened a couple of weeks ago, massive numbers of Victoria State Police were knocking on the doors of independent and freelance journalists and presenting them with a letter from the state chief of police saying, if we catch you covering any of the police actions at the anti-lockdown protests, you will be arrested under incitement, which falls under the anti-terrorism laws here. So that was one thing. As they've eased restrictions over the last 3 weeks, now this is how messed up it is. You can't go to church because going to church has too high a potential risk of infection. But you can go to a whorehouse and get your rocks off. Because apparently banging a prostitute has a lower risk of infection than saving your soul on a Sunday morning.
Wonderful. Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is what we need.
I mean, the police have been once again out cracking skulls. Most recently, of small business owners who didn't qualify for any of the federal or state assistance, and most of these businesses are either now bankrupt or on the verge of bankruptcy. A lot of them have been evicted for not being able to pay their rent and so on. And, they're pissed off. But, the police just turn up to what are, at the time, very peaceful rallies of concerned citizens and small business owners wanting the government to hear the pain they're going through. The police turn up and just start cracking skulls, riding their riot control horses through the crowds, and otherwise physically assaulting them. There was a father who had picked up his son. He was estranged from his wife, had visitation a couple of weekends ago, so he took his son to McDonald's. This father was trying to do the right thing, even though the family is broken up, and be involved in his son's life. Picked him up, took him to McDonald's for breakfast, and they parked by a scenic park. They were going to throw the football around after that evening, but the police saw him there and arrested the father because he'd travelled outside of his 3-mile quarantine zone, 5 kilometres, to be able to still be a father to his child. This is the sort of garbage that's going on, and we're finding out that every single one of these new lockdowns has been caused by the exact same thing: the inadequacies of the government-run hotel quarantine system.
Now, you have stated this before, Jack Alexander, and I think you have hit upon a critical issue. I know you're going to go into it now, but many people have not heard this. So could you give some background as to why hotels? What is happening with that, please?
Round one, they contracted a bunch of hotels to take repatriating Australians back in. And they, rather than having the military look after it because they didn't like the optics, or have the police look after it because they didn't like the optics, they handed out security to a small security firm that happened to be the brother-in-law of someone who was an aide to one of the state politicians. He wasn't on the approved providers list, but got the job anyway. They couldn't handle the staffing requirements, so they then subcontracted their security duties out to other small security businesses run by friends. Now, one of the industries in Australia that is dominated by how do I put this politely, the religion of peace is security. And what had happened during the big lockdown was that these men belonging to the religion of peace were essentially for Kamala Harris-style favours, allowing certain infected residents out of these hotels.
Now, by certain, do you mean people of a like religion?
No, these were all of that religion.
Okay. All right, not some, but all. Well,
and,
on this we can say they're Muslims.
They were, as people wanted to get out of the hotels, walk around and go outside for a little bit. Basically, they were certainly amongst the women exchanging that escape from quarantine for sexual favours. They then now most of these people from the religion of peace, when they immigrate to Australia, they get put into public housing, subsidised public housing. Well, they took the virus back, and the first really big outbreak of it was in some of these high-rise public housing apartment blocks, where other members of their families deliver for like Uber Eats or DoorDash or any of these others, and spread it around the city. Others were working in the kitchens of nursing homes. So the nursing homes got infected very quickly. So the state government locks down the state even harder. And the State Budgetary Office released a report for the lockdown last year. They actually made more money through fines and penalties of COVID lockdown violators than what they would have done in legitimate state taxes. Think about that.
Translation for leftists. It's a cash cow. Getting disease can be made into a cash cow. Have I interpreted that properly, do you think, Jack Alexander?
Oh, yeah. And now the state government is doing backdoor deals with a couple of independent politicians because the numbers between the two major parties are so close. The independents have a fair bit of power. And they're now trying to negotiate that the state of emergency that gives the government these emergency powers and law enforcement extra powers, they're now wanting to make that permanent because, well, it's a virus. Well, we haven't been able to get rid of the common cold, which is a virus. We haven't been able to get rid of influenza, which is a virus. And given that COVID is a virus, and it's going to be with us now forever, in spite of the vaccines, they want these powers permanently now. and they're doing backdoor deals to hold on to them. And our state government is very closely aligned with socialist ideals.
Well, everyone knows the axiom, I may slaughter the axiom, but it's still going to be true. Power once acquired is seldom, if ever, relinquished. I don't remember to whom that was attributed, but it's a national and a global axiom. People who acquire power would much rather have it, keep it, and never, ever relinquish it. I don't know. Maybe I can find it as I'm talking.
We've become a giant surveillance state. Every business you go into, by law, you are meant to scan a QR code on your phone and upload that information to the government. Everywhere you go. They say it's for contact tracing. Yet the same system in other states has been used to track down criminals. But in this state, it's used to fine people that have travelled outside of their quarantine area. Now, as of midnight last night, they finally lifted the 25-kilometre, what's that about, 18-mile final quarantine zone.
Okay.
But you can only have 2 out-of-house visitors per day in your house. You can't visit your sick relatives in nursing homes. You can't go to church. You can only have, actually it's just gone from 10 to 20 people at a wedding, assuming that any of the wedding places are open.
Right.
Because most of them have gone bankrupt during this time. But you can have 75 people at a funeral.
Yeah, but you can't worship God. That's right out.
And of course, you can go and bang a hooker, a high-priced hooker.
Come on, what politician doesn't want to do that? Are you thinking properly, Jack Alexander? There are a lot of guys out there, a lot of politician males who want to go out and just throw rocks at hookers or bang them or something like that. You seem to be a very mean-spirited individual. Now, we talked about money and power. Just a few moments ago, there was a great line by Kevin Spacey. Say what you will of him, but this line holds true from the TV series House of Cards. And Jack just illustrated that this is happening right now in Australia. Well, hell, it happens everywhere.
You've made your point. Have I? I hope so. Such a waste of talent. He chose money over power. In this town, a mistake nearly everyone makes. Money is the McMansion in Sarasota that starts falling apart after 10 years. Power is the old stone building that stands for centuries. I cannot respect someone who doesn't see the difference.
And that's it. Money and power, with power being essentially the ultimate bartering advice. I got about a half hour left to go. I want to get back to Jack Alexander. I'm going to have to take a break. What I'd like to do is this. Jack, would you mind holding over the break, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. When he comes back, I want to talk some numbers. Now, you must think, if you're listening to this and you haven't heard Jack Alexander before, that Australia must be absolutely replete with bodies laying all over the carpets and the floors and the highways and the roads all over that country because of the restrictions that have been placed upon Australians. When we come back, I will tell you some numbers, and Jack will continue telling you about what's currently happening in Australia. And when you think that you've got this all sussed out, that Australia has to be an absolute hotbed of death, worse than anything Cuomo envisioned, oh, you would be so wrong.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick Ubellis as host and C.S. Bennett co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern